All right, everyone, welcome back. We're diving into some seriously cool tech today, and it's all about GraalVM.
That's right, GraalVM.
So we've all been hearing about it, seeing it pop up more and more.
Definitely seeing a lot of buzz.
But let's be honest, it can feel a little overwhelming at first, right?
Oh yeah, for sure.
So today, we're going to break it down. We're going to get to the heart of what GraalVM actually is, why everyone's so excited about it, and how it might change the way you think about coding.
Sounds good.
Okay, before we jump into GraalVM specifically, we need to make sure we're all on the same page about virtual machines.
Virtual machines, yeah.
Can you give us like the super simple explanation of what a virtual machine is?
Okay, so imagine you have a sentence written in, let's say, Spanish, but you only understand English.
Okay, I'm with you.
You'd need a translator, right?
Right.
A virtual machine is kind of like a translator for your code. It sits between your program and your computer's hardware.
Makes sense.
It makes sure they can understand each other.
So it's like a universal language for computers.
Exactly. And a really good example that most people know is the JVM, the Java Virtual Machine. That's what lets Java programs run on any computer, no matter the hardware.
Okay, got it. So where does GraalVM fit into all of this? Is it like a souped up JVM?
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. It's taking that virtual machine concept and just taking it to a whole new level. It's not just Java, it can actually run programs written in tons of different languages.
Right.
Like Python, JavaScript, even C and C++. It's what we call polyglot.
Polyglot, like speaking multiple languages.
Exactly.
Wow, okay. So, but why is that such a big deal? I mean, why does it matter that it can work with all these different languages?
Well, think about it this way. You can choose the best language for each part of your application.
Oh, okay.
So you need something super fast for crunching numbers. Use C++i. But if you're building a user interface, JavaScript might be the better choice.
I see. So it's like picking the best tool for the job.
Exactly. And GraalVM lets you combine all of those strengths without having to make them work together. It takes care of that for you.
So no more language silos.
Exactly. Developers can collaborate way more easily, and we get way more efficient applications. It's a win-win.
Definitely a win-win. But I'm hearing a lot about GraalVM being insanely fast too. What's the secret there?
It all comes down to something called the JIT compiler, or just-in-time compiler.
JIT compiler.
This thing, it analyzes your code as it's running and figures out how to make it run even faster on the fly.
Really?
It's almost like having a personal trainer for your code, just constantly pushing it to perform at its best.
Okay, so it optimizes in real time. That's pretty amazing. But hold on, I think we need to take a quick break before we get too deep into that.
So that JIT compiler, huh? Pretty cool stuff.
It is. It's kind of mind-blowing, honestly. Like, it analyzes the code while it's running and makes it faster.
Yeah.
I mean, how does that even work?
Well, think of it this way. It figures out which parts of your code are used the most often, the real workhorses.
Okay, yeah.
And it optimizes those sections, kind of like fine-tunes them for maximum speed. It's almost like imagine a marathon runner who can adjust their stride and breathing in real time to get the best performance.
That's a great analogy. So it's constantly adapting and improving. But the JIT compiler isn't the only trick up GraalVM sleeve, is it? You mentioned native images earlier. What are those all about?
Oh yeah, native images. This is where things get really interesting. Remember how we talked about the virtual machine acting as a translator?
Yeah, like translated between the code and the hardware.
Exactly. Well, with a native image, you're basically getting rid of the translator altogether.
Wait, so the codes can run directly on the hardware? No virtual machine needed?
You got it. You use GraalVM to compile your code ahead of time. That's what we call ahead of time compilation, or AOT.
AOT.
Okay, and the result is this small, self-contained executable file. It's already optimized for your specific operating system and hardware.
Wow, so no more virtual machine overhead, faster startup times, smaller application size. Sounds like it'd be perfect for cloud-native applications.
Exactly. Cloud native, by the way, just means applications that are designed specifically for cloud environments where things like scalability and resource efficiency are crucial.
Makes sense.
And native images are just perfect for those environments because they start up super fast. We're talking milliseconds and use less memory, and they can be packed into these tiny containers for easy deployment.
This is making me rethink how I approach development, honestly. So you're telling me I could have, say, a Python web server running directly on the hardware, no bulky Python runtime. That's a game changer.
It really is. And speaking of changing the game, let's talk about real-world use cases. For example, there's this large financial institution, right? And they were using GraalVM to run their risk analysis algorithms.
Wow, that's a pretty serious use case. What kind of impact did GraalVM have?
Well, they saw some pretty dramatic improvements. By switching to native images, they were able to cut their cloud infrastructure costs by something like 40%.
40%, that's huge.
Huge, yeah. And all because native images are so much more efficient. Plus, their algorithms ran way faster, which meant they could get real-time insights into market risks.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
It definitely sounds like GraalVM delivers on its promises of performance and efficiency. But let's be real, are there any downsides or trade-offs to consider?
That's a great question. I mean, while GraalVM offers some incredible benefits, it's not a magic bullet for everything, right? There's a bit of a learning curve involved, especially when you start getting into AOT compilation and native images. And, it might not be the perfect fit for every single project out there.
So you're saying it's important to carefully consider if GraalVM is the right tool for the job, just like with any technology.
Exactly. It's all about finding the right tool for your specific needs and really understanding the trade-offs. But for a lot of developers, especially those working with Java or looking to, break free from those language silos, GraalVM opens up a whole world of exciting possibilities.
I can see that.
It really empowers you to build faster, more efficient, and more flexible applications that can actually thrive in this modern world of cloud computing.
Awesome. Well, that was a fantastic explanation of the technical side of things.
Yeah.
We've definitely laid a solid foundation for understanding what makes GraalVM so special and why it's generating so much buzz. Now, let's shift gears a bit and explore what this all means for you, the listener. So we've talked a lot about what makes GraalVM so cool, but the big question is, should you, the listener, be using it? Should you give it a try?
That is the question, isn't it? And honestly, the answer is, well, like with most things in tech, it depends.
I knew you were going to say that. But seriously, what are some of the things people should think about when they're making that decision?
Well, I think if you're mainly a Java developer, especially if you're working on cloud-native applications or microservices, then exploring GraalVM is almost a no-brainer. The performance gains alone can be massive.
Yeah.
And that ability to create native images, it's a game changer for cloud deployments.
Right, for sure. What about developers who work with, I don't know, maybe Python or JavaScript? Is there anything in GraalVM for them?
Oh, absolutely. Those polyglot capabilities, they open up some really exciting possibilities for projects that use multiple languages.
Okay.
So imagine seamlessly integrating a high-performance Python library into your Java application or the other way around.
Yeah.
That flexibility can be incredibly powerful.
I love that about GraalVM, that it's like breaking down those walls between languages. It's like the United Nations of programming. But let's be real, there's always a learning curve with any new tech. Are there good resources out there for people who want to get started with GraalVM?
Yeah, for sure. Luckily, there's this huge and growing community around GraalVM. The official website has fantastic documentation, tutorials, tons of examples to get you going.
Awesome.
And there are a bunch of online courses, blog posts, community forums. You can connect with other people who are into GraalVM and get your questions answered. It's really great.
It's always good to have that community support.
Yeah.
Right? So it sounds like there's a lot to be excited about with GraalVM, both for, experienced developers and those just starting out. Any final thoughts for our listeners? Any words of wisdom as they kind of start exploring GraalVM?
I would say embrace the polyglot mindset, Don't be afraid to experiment with different languages and see how you can really leverage their strengths within the GraalVM ecosystem. The possibilities are really endless. And who knows, you might even discover a new favorite language along the way.
That's such a good point. It's not just about performance, it's about broadening your horizons as a developer. Well, that wraps up our deep dive into GraalVM. We've covered a lot today, but I hope you've all found it insightful and engaging. And remember, keep exploring, keep experimenting, keep diving deep.